The next operation is to add a title in this narrow band here. Now the text in the title has quite large spaces between the letters. I want the word future systems to fill the whole line. So this has to be done quite carefully. Now what I need to do first is create a text box for the text to sit in. What I'll do before that though, in fact, is create a new layer, and new layer is going to be called title. Click OK. Go to the text tool, and it's quite tricky to see, but what we have here is a bar marker. The small horizontal dash is actually where that crosses the bar marker. That's where you are picking. So I'm clicking and dragging to create a long horizontal text box. Okay, it's now waiting for me to enter the text. This has to be done fairly carefully. We need to add in a lot of spaces between the letters, because once we spread it out, it does need to have a bit more space. So it's three spacebar clicks in between every letter, and 6 in between each word. What it might be better to do here is actually turn off the background so we can see what we're typing. It's the black colour of the text isn't visible against the background. So I'm turning off the background, even though I'm still in the text command. No spaces at the very end of the word. The font isn't right, the text isn't spaced out, and we need to make sure it sits tidily within the box. Drag your cursor over the letters in the word. Now the control palette at the top has 2 levels for text. There's items relating to the spacing and the arrangement of letters or words, and there's others that are related to the actual letters themselves. So the first thing to change is the font. So we want to choose the Arial font. The height of the text wants to be 16. It's not on the choice there, so we need to type that in. And we want bold text. Okay, we're not going to change anything else here. We can add spacings in here if we wish, but if we go back to the paragraph properties, then we can choose the justification button, and that spaced the letters out across the page. So adding in the extra dots, the extra spaces, does help. Now we need to choose a colour for this text. Now we could choose an actual colour, or you can choose what's called paper. Now paper would actually create like a cutting right the way through any object to the colour of the paper. So you're really saying no ink in this area. You're not actually specifying a colour. Choosing a colour in InDesign is actually a fairly important, fairly complex task. So there are standard colours set up for you on the Swatches tab. So if you go to Window, Swatches, we can see the colours that are available at the moment. Now one of those colours is called paper. There isn't actually a colour assigned to that text per se, not a named colour anyway. So if we click the word paper, the text has actually disappeared because it's actually been made transparent. So I click in the white area, it appears that our text is invisible. It's only invisible because you can't see the background. If we bring the background back on, I'll just minimize the color swatches just for now. I'll just hide the swatch. I can get rid of it. It won't go away. I'll take the tick off swatches actually. If I go to Window, that just pushes it to the side. I'm trying to get the Layers tab back on top. That's better. If I click the background, the eye where it's turned off at background, you should see that we're looking straight through towards the background, which is what we want. Let's zoom out a smidgen. So we're going to work in this area now and add a big chunk of text. Now this text comes from a Word document that's part of the resources for this practical. The file future systems text.doc. I'm going to copy, so I highlight all the text, edit, copy, finish with the Word document. Let's create a new layer to hold this text. I'm going to call it text. Create a text box to drop the text into, so you're carefully using your guidelines to create the box. Then go to Edit, Paste. So we can see the text just. I think if we turn the background off again, it just fits in the box. So let's highlight all that text. My mistake. I've created a text frame there. I want to click once inside the text area, and then still not doing it. I'm trying to select all the text. We'll use a similar arrangement. So we want the text justified, but justified with the last line trailing. And the type of text is going to be Arial again. Height of 11 points. So there's a wee bit of breathing space at the bottom. Now this text doesn't want to be bold, be too strong. Right, reveal your swatches pack again. So swatches panel. Now we have the text, the main title is white, that'll be fairly strong, but it'd be good if this text was played down a wee bit, so if it was a grey tone. So to do that we need to create a new colour to use. There isn't any here that we want to use. So I'm going to add a new colour swatch. So if you click the small arrow button, go to New Colour Swatch, and the type of colour, the easiest ones to define, stick to RGB if you can, they're easier to work with. Then grey is basically you keep all these numbers the same. So what I'm going to do is type in a value for this colour. I'm going to make it 225 for each component of the colour. That should give me a pale grey. If you want to give it a specific name, which is yours useful, we can call this pale grey. So instead of it using the colour value, what I've done is taken the tick off and I can type in a name. Click OK, and that colour gets added to the swatch, and it's actually applied that colour to the text as well. So I'm going to go to the Move tool. You can see the text is very pale grey now. Bring back the background. Not bad. Now maybe that text isn't sufficiently different in colour to the white of there. You can edit the colour. This is where the software really gets more powerful, in that you change the colour and it will apply through the whole document, not just that piece of text. So if you double click the colour, let's take these all down to 175. Click OK. The text is dimmed, and that would affect any occurrence of the use of pale grey throughout the document. Very, very powerful feature. The last little touch here is to add a small piece of text in this area, which could be the web link. Let's maybe run it vertically actually. So if we take we'll create a new layer to use. Create a new layer. Let's call it URL. Okay. On a text box. And the URL for this company future-systems.com. That's fine. Let's use the pale grey that we've already got. May as well. Change the font to Arial to match the document. Use as few fonts as you can get away with. The height, maybe make this 14. And now go back to the Move tool. What I want to do now is rotate the box so the text runs vertically. So click the rotate button, and you should be able to actually type in the angle of rotation. So let's try for 90, then move, pick up the piece of text and slide it in. Now before we leave this, let's just have another look at some other options that you now have in InDesign. What I'm going to do is just increase the size of that text box slightly so you can see this happen better. If you right click a text box, and you right click the text box, if you go to text frame options, you can add a cushion around the text. So say we added 2 millimeters on all sides of the text box. This allows you to space your text inwards. And you see how that works? It's got a text frame within it. This is a very tidy way of getting text centered within a gap. Click once and that applies. Now it's quite easy to get things in a bit of a muddle in InDesign. The layering is very easy to use, but it's actually very easy to confuse as well. Now if I select one of these images and I move the very small square into a different image, into a different layer, it's now on the background layer. If I turned off the background, both the background and that image would disappear. Okay, so click the object, move the square and its alliance to the layer is changed. So URL and that image are now on the same layer, both disappear. So you only see the square when you have an object picked. Do you see it appearing each time I change object? So that should be on the thumbnails layer. When I turn off the thumbnails, they all go off. That is the end of the session. So let's zoom out. View the whole presentation. Go to File, Save, and that's it, finished. Adobe InDesign. Fantastic piece of software. I've only touched on a very few of its potentials here.